Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what your time zone is. This is Kevin Ordonez. I'm co-founder and co-creative.org community. And with me this morning or this afternoon is Dan Stevens, president of WorkerBee TV, and Marcus Lake, head of sales and marketing at WorkerBee TV. And today they're going to talk to us about how we can all make six figures in our digital sponsorship for our associations. But before we get started, just a few housekeeping items here. Everyone is on mute, so please use the chat or the QA feature and we'll get your questions answered. Also, all of our registrants will receive a copy of the presentation and the recording, as well as your CAE certificate. And all that will be sent in the next day or so. I also want to let everyone know that our annual Solutions Day is set for November 2nd. And it's a great day of education and networking, and encourage you to use the QR code to register, and you can earn up to 5.5 CAE credits. But again, it's one of our marquee events. We'll have over 100 association executives there explaining how they're using certain solutions today, and a great time for networking. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan and Marcus for today's webinar. So welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Your audio was a little rough. I hope Marcus, is my audio coming through okay?
You're coming through clear here for me, Dan.
Okay.
I think the chat might not have been opened up to everyone.
Okay. Well, let's get started.
You're good to get going, Dan.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Digital engagement and digital revenue is a hot topic these days, and I really hope to spend some time covering some topics that you can take home and work on. But we're going to start first with a little poll. And so let me get the poll open. And this is a multiple choice poll, so you can answer. There's actually two polls on this screen. You can answer as not just one, but any of the ones that take effect. So the first question is, how many of you need more digital revenue to either compensate for losses in more traditional advertising and sponsorship, to satisfy sponsor desires for measurable results, to fund more robust digital content for members? And then the second question is, what content marketing solutions are you trying that are good for both members and sponsors? And so give it a second here and I'll end the poll, but I see people are still responding. So give it a second and then I'll share that response on screen. People are still updating, so. Interesting diversity. I'll look forward to sharing this with you. Okay, I'm going to close it off in just a few seconds. Okay, here we go. Everybody can see that. Marcus, is that displaying on the screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so almost tied on the first one, but basically all three reasons for why people need more digital revenue. And then down below, a variety of people are trying things, speaking at conferences. Interesting, pre-pandemic, that was something that was almost taboo in the associations. But as we'll talk about how content marketing is growing, how associations are reacting and what the opportunity is. And I'm going to share a real good example of that, that one association's really leaned into in today's webinar. So with that, let me stop sharing and go back to the slides. Thank you for taking time on that. I'm with Marcus Late. As mentioned, Marcus is going to be monitoring the Q&A. So if there's any questions, please put them in. We're going to try and get through. We have a lot to cover, get through all the topics, and then we'll answer all the questions at the end. So thank you for being here today. You know, digital monetization requires a prerequisite, and that requires digital engagement. The reason is it's measurable. You can't hide from the data. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how do we get the digital engagement that is so necessary to drive digital revenue. And today, where workforce development is such an issue and attracting young people is such an issue, you know, you really have to have high quality content to get young people to engage. They want to be entertained as well as educated. And so how do you do that without funding high quality content? And so they've become kind of mutually exclusive, glued at the hips opportunities. But what prevents optimizing digital engagement? And there are four big ones. Content quality, which often is not the biggest issue in most associations, although in the eyes of the viewer, maybe too much of it's an article, or maybe it's long form webinars that aren't summarized into micro learning. So it could be the format of that which is impacting the perception of quality. We'll talk a little bit about that today. Content experience. Is it easy to find? Is it easy to consume? Once I've consumed it, what should I do next? Is it easy to act upon? Should I be registering? Should I be downloading? Should I be joining? What should I do next? Is it really simple to have a journey that's frictionless? What's the member's ability to control the experience? Not only finding, consuming, and acting on content, but maybe, hey, this is a channel I want to subscribe to. These are topics that I want more on. How are, through either the data, the footprints in the sand, if you will, is your system picking that up so that you can segment those members? Or can I subscribe to select topics? And then budget. And budget falls into both time and money. Do we have the time and money to do the content at the level that's required to be best in the world at something? Not necessarily everything you do, but you got to be best in the world at something. So let's talk about engagement related to your website. Is your content scattered? This is what we often see, right? The videos are on YouTube, the podcasts are in a podcast file, the LMS is a separate login. We've got microsites for blogs, the homepage is over here. Our webinars are organized by date because everyone searches for an October 13th, right? And if I don't know what I'm looking for, it's very difficult to find it. And that's just not the way people search. What they want you to do is consolidate all that multimedia into one library so that all they can do is search or to be directed from a social post or a newsletter post, so that I'm not sending people off to YouTube for videos, and I don't have to know it's a video in advance. I can just find it on your website. And when you do that, that accessibility not only makes it easy on your website to find, but it opens up and improves Google search as well. Easy to find it, filter, easy to consume it, and then easy to act on it. And when you consolidate your content, I'm going to take you out to this client of ours, the American Rental Association, show you what they've done. Here's an example where if I come to their website, and I put in the word rental here, and I hit search, it's like, that in Google, when you do something generic, well, I get 43 plus pages of search. So that's not going to help me, but maybe I want to come down here and say, well, what I really want is videos. Maybe I want them from a certain channel, maybe government affairs, or maybe I want, I'm really interested in member profiles, but I don't have a lot of time right now. So I want something that's less than 15 minutes, and then I can apply it. And while I'm searching and filtering, I'm also being served ads. So I'm generating revenue. Then when I find what I'm looking for, not only do I find it and it's easy for me to consume, but if I really don't have time now, I can save it, come back to it, or I can share it, or I can like it. And maybe that's isn't what I thought it was. So I can go to related content without having to search again and find video, podcasts, articles, webinars that match that topic. Make that experience really, really frictionless. Right? And that sets you up. Whoops, hit the wrong button there. Let's go back here. That sets you up for monetization. With this particular client, they found that when they looked at their newsletter, people were going to different locations. And sometimes they were able to serve ads to generate revenue, and sometimes the format was really limiting. And when we look at the largest section of that website, and this is just a fictitious example, but let's imagine that there was 100,000 page views, and we could only serve, because of the way that website was structured, one banner at the top and one banner at the bottom of the page, with an average being 1.5 views. Well, that's only 150,000 annual impressions. Pretty hard to generate a lot of revenue to elevate your content on that. But when you consolidate what's now on YouTube and making YouTube money and your podcasts and everything else into one library, that might change to where maybe 70% of your total website is in one hub. And now maybe 700,000 people are seeing 2 to 5 banners. And now we've got 10,500,000 banner impressions in a year that you can make money on. So not only does that simplify and reduce friction for members, but it really opens up the opportunity for revenue. So I encourage you all to go to your newsletter and click on every story and just look at where it takes you. How many times does it take you off-site? How many times does it take you to a page where there is no further call to action? How many times does it take you to a place where there's 0 or only 1 banner being served? That's an opportunity for improvement. Although that is an example of brand advertising, it's still there. It is shrinking. And when you get into content marketing, you start opening up and going, how can I use my sponsors as speakers? How can I use my sponsors as thought leaders? How can I help them fill out my content calendar in areas that we don't either have the time to, or maybe we don't have the opportunity to. But Professionals for Association Revenue just did a study not that long ago. And it was surprising when we look at these numbers that almost half of associations said they won't meet their budget targets for both membership and non-dues revenue. That's pretty scary. Even worse, 86% of them believe their business development strategy is underperforming or non-existent. So there's a real need for content marketing, a real need to organize the way people like to buy today, right? Ads are for awareness. Buyers want information. They don't want to be sold to anymore. They want to self-educate themselves. And then if and when ready, they'll engage with you. You have the opportunity of doing that for your sponsors if you choose to. I'm going to show you an example. So if you think of the funnel from awareness to interest to desire and action, awareness is that advertising on your website, those banner ads, etc. Introducing people to a topic. It could be a webinar. It could be a case study. It could be a thought leadership video. It could be speaking at your event. But this is why people want to understand, what is the problem? Yes, I have that problem. What are the types of solutions to that problem? They don't want to be sold to. They want to hear it in educational format. If they like that, then click them through to maybe a solution center listing on your website where you've got, and this is an example where that same organization I had up earlier has all of these libraries where people can go and filter, search, and find what they're looking for. And let those people self-educate the way they do on Amazon, the way you do when you shop. Give them the ability to drill down on products, give them videos to consume, give them pictures to look at, give them PDF documents. If and when they want to, then they're one click away from contacting you or requesting a quote or doing what's next, right? And that makes it easy. .org Community does this on theirs. If you wanted to go into the service categories or the product categories on .org, you could go and find what you're looking for, and it will filter the list of partners, right? There's our listing right there as an example, and it pops up, and then people can navigate and learn more and come in and find. So anyways, let's go back to here. So when you look at that, then that's last stage is action. It's very rare that people are going to look at a banner ad and want to buy something. It's very rare that people are going to just look at a thought leadership and go, I think I know what I should buy. You need to take people through those educational steps. And if you do that, you can actually set up your website where you can get your sponsors to be content contributors. So here's an example where maybe you give them a Solution Center listing, like I mentioned, and they get to submit one piece of content per year. That could be an article, that could be a podcast, that could be a webinar, that could be a video. And included in that is enough banner ads to make them aware of the content, so they get to the educational content that motivates them to go to the Solution Center, that if they like what's in the Solution Center, motivates them to engage with that sponsor. Here's an example where we say 2 content submissions per year or 4 content submissions per year. And maybe those are articles and videos. And if you want to upgrade to a webinar so you can control how many webinars you're giving per year, there's an upgrade fee. And maybe that's a special price of only $8,000 a year, $12,000, $18,000 a year. Imagine if you just sold 10 of each of that. If you sold 10 of each, that generates $392,000 of non-dues revenue. Your sponsors do all the work. You have to approve the content, make sure it meets the standards, meets the educational standards, but that's all you have to do, and then you have to market. But it creates 70 new pieces of educational content for your website. 70 educational thought leadership pieces that really rounds out your content calendar. So all of a sudden, the sponsors are doing the same thing. At the end of the day, if it's not good for members, it won't be good for sponsors. And they now understand that. So this is an opportunity to kind of engage them in your content calendar. And you can, it goes beyond that. You can go into webinars, you can go into and podcasts, thought leadership, and so forth. There's just many things that you can do to make it really, really accessible. This is one organization, the Society of Petroleum Engineers, who really bought into this process. They decided that every week they would create something called a Tech Talk, but they saw their webinars were actually shrinking. And the reason they were shrinking is because maybe the topic resonated with me this time, maybe it didn't. So they came up with something called Tech Talk. They decided no PowerPoint. This is going to be a conversation, not an hour, 30 minutes like what we're on today. And I'm going to invite sponsors who will pay to be guests, but I'm going to have a moderated host so we control the quality and experience. Rather than calling it a webinar by putting a brand on it, they found the demand was so strong they had to go to 2 times a week. So every week they do 2 of these, and the results are amazing. And you can look, and they're live streamed through the website, and they're live streamed through LinkedIn at the same time. And then they're moved into on demand. And as you can see, it has been a pretty popular thing. We have over 10 pages of all of these previous Tech Talks. Well, $500,000 on this one program alone was generated last year, just on this one program. So it's amazing how, with a little bit of work, and I always use the analogy of a magazine. In the old days of a magazine, the content structure, the content, and the sponsorship were tightly planned and organized. And somehow when we went digital, web took over the website, content got dispersed over all the departments with no consistency, and when they were updating, and sponsorship was sitting there going, I have no idea if we're doing 4 of these or 40 of these. And so we went from good dollars of non-digital revenue into pennies. there's a huge opportunity to organize that and relink it the way a magazine was, where a branded series with a defined deliverable, always on Tuesdays and Thursdays in this example, at the same time, can generate amazing engagement and amazing revenue. But sponsor servicing is different for digital. In the traditional method, we used to kind of make the sale and we were done. Oh, well, maybe the lanyards had to be printed or we had to get the ad copy into the magazine, but for most part, we were done. Whereas with digital, it just begins when they say yes, because they're going to want the analytics. They're going to want to know how many people click through. So that's a little bit different. And very much like SPE, if you are working with the sponsors in advance, you're training them to be educational and you're helping them along that path. And so it is different. And if you adjust to those differences, it can have an amazing impact on both engagement and revenue. We already did this poll, so I'm going to skip over that. But engaging members grows your revenues, and curating content solutions that are good for members and sponsors. We were chatting with an organization earlier today who's very interested in featuring members and doing member insights. Imagine if you just did 12 of those a year, featuring members, sharing amazing stories. Not only does that make your association look good, what sponsors wouldn't want to be around peer-to-peer content? Simple things like that. Quarterly industry updates. Another example of a program that you can put in place where there's a predictability like a magazine used to have in a digital format that's truly engaging. And if you generate enough revenue, you can make it, whether you make it internally or externally, at a quality level that will engage people. But don't go to your vendors and say, hey, do you want to do a video, or do you want to do a tech talk or a webinar? Go to them and say, can you speak as an expert on this topic? A topic that you know your members will care about. And if you look at your top 10 or 15 sponsors, go down and list what can they speak on as an expert. That's the conversation to have. And that will start you leaning into this direction. And they will go, I mean, I can make content that has your reach and my reach, because they'll put that same content on their website. All of a sudden, they'll start helping you market and share, which might bring new people into your association, as well as revenue. What you have to decide is, what is the format? When is it I allow them to speak at an event? When is it a webinar, 30 or 60 minutes? When is it a 3 to 4 minute video, right? And when is it something that is part of a special project or a strategic initiative? And which might be something that you're thinking about. Right now, many associations are dealing with workforce development issues. We have a series called Jobs of Tomorrow, which is really designed to help an association do two things: educate existing members on being ready for tomorrow and positioning the association at the center of helping us, those members be ready for, the changes of AI and technology and demographics and so forth. And then we create a secondary long form 30-minute TV show that goes out on Amazon and Tubi to get at the young people who don't really understand your industry and your profession, and pull them in to make them aware of all the career opportunities and use it as a career development opportunity. And you can put sponsorship into these. Matter of fact, there's multiple ways you can do it, but a docuseries, interestingly, is like a magazine. When a magazine was built, you got to use this third-party distribution tool called the post office. If you make a 15-minute video, you can't put it on TV, but if you make one to documentary standards, you can get distribution, or we can help you get distribution. It's not that easy, but it is possible. Your members understand that a docuseries is educational. Your sponsors understand that this is an opportunity for them to be inside the content as one of those experts, talking about how they're helping make the industry better, faster, cheaper, and safer. So there's interesting ways of creating. I'll just pop up the media kit that's being used for this by many associations, is a way to build examples where, from $10,000 to $35,000, people can really be a part of a major program. Down at the bottom, it just summarizes all of the things that are involved, and that the market value is high and that they can get a really good deal working with their association. This is an example that Society of Mining used and very effectively to fund and actually make a profit on a series like this. So anytime, we call them programs, but anytime you can define a series, very much like the old department of a magazine used to be, you open yourself up to simplifying monetization. This is what it looks like up on Tubi. So if you have a workforce development issue, let us know. We'd be happy to help you. But this is content that's good for members, good for sponsors, really helps the association create a pipeline, and it can make up to $90,000 in profit. There's some big dollars that are often available by doing digital right. And when you do digital right, you connect with partners. Now you understand what they're trying to achieve. You know what you want to achieve. You find that overlap where it's good for both members and sponsors. If it's not good for members, do not do it, because it won't last anyways. So don't try to eliminate noise, at least minimize the noise of just brand advertising, and turn your sponsors, help your sponsors the way SPE did, become educational. And in doing so, you'll build a revenue stream and a content stream at the same time. And that high quality content, SPE, I spoke with them in Detroit just yesterday at a CES example, and they shared that they also do a same format of that called SPE Live, where advertisers can just buy banners around it. And the Tech Talks actually get more engagement than their own program does. And so, sometimes sponsors can be really, really educational. But start with your website. Is it frictionless? Is it easy to find, easy to consume, easy to act? If it is, then you can focus on the content. And then you can start measuring and letting the data tell you what members really like and what sponsors are really getting traction. And then you can reinvest that profit into elevating the quality of content so that you're doing more video and more podcast and high quality webinars with music and maybe live, not just and on demand, and do some of those special programs like member profiles or member insights, or fund special initiatives like workforce development or other strategic advocacy issues that you may have. And programs are predictable, right? When you brand something like Tech Talks or SPE Live, or whatever you're going to call these things, or Jobs of Tomorrow, you're setting an expectation on the frequency, the structure, the quality. Members like that. It's no different than, imagine if we opened up our TVs at night and everything just said program, 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 program. We know when we click on the news what we're going to get. We know when we click on our favorite show what we're going to get. People love that predictability. Leverage your brand to build brands of channels on the topics that you need to be best in the world at, and get your sponsors to help you. So this is my last slide, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So fix the issues and make sure your website and your inventory available to generate revenue is balanced and that it's frictionless, and make your offerings complete, whether you want to go like the whole funnel example or start small and build, or take on something like Tech Talks. Make it a complete offering where the focus is on education, always member first. And if it's good for your member, it will be good for your sponsor. Sell completely, make it so it's sensible for anyone to engage. I've consumed the content. What should I do next? Make it easy to click through. Don't assume the member's going to hunt around and find out and try to figure out what they need to do. And again, if you want to grow revenue, there's significant opportunities to grow digital revenue. You got to remove the friction. You got to make it so that people they're not going to look at webinars by date. They're not going to go off to YouTube and find their way back to your website. You've got to consolidate it and make your brand a content hub that's easy to find and search. And then the quality of the content will come through. So thank you. I appreciate all your time today. Let's open it up for questions.
That's great, Dan. As people are getting their questions, one of the questions I have is, why is it so hard for some of us to monetize and engage on the digital platforms these days?
Well, when I explained earlier how tightly coupled the platform, i.e. the magazine, the content structure, the annual plan broken up by department, and sponsorship, that was a tightly coupled group. And in doing so, it was very easy for sales to communicate to sponsors a predictable model. Unfortunately, magazines have fallen because they're not measurable and people are reading less and the cost of distribution and so forth. But you can bring that experience to your website. But what mostly happens with websites today is each department is updating when they want to. So if you're in sales trying to sell sponsorship, you have no idea what the cadence is. You have no idea whether each piece of content is going to be featured in social or not featured in social. Is it going to make it to the newsletter or not make it to the newsletter? And so what happens is they start going, well, I'll just give you a run of site banners and hope and pray. And that's low cost, low value, and low revenue. And so to get into the higher revenue opportunities and bring in $400,000 on one program, you got to look at an integrated content plan. And you got to have a cadence. And so whether that's once a quarter or once a month or once a week or once a day, whatever that cadence is, then put a brand on it so that people go, oh, I'm on Tech Talks, or I'm on this, or I'm on member profiles. And I know what I'm going to expect. Some of our clients have been doing this for years and years. Their engagement is like 93% the length of a video. Why? Because we know how long their people stay. So we make those videos 3 to 3.5 minutes long. And they know it every 2 weeks, like clockwork, I'm going to be educated on a topic and I can click if I want more for detail. But if I'm good with the Coles Notes, I'm good. Sponsors are happy, members are happy, associations happy. So it's bringing back that integration of planning and leveraging the branding of channels or series to make it predictable for the viewer and predictable for the sponsor.
Platforms like TikTok come into play when it comes to sponsored content.
Well, I think we can learn a lot from TikTok because look how popular it is with young people when it comes to how much they want to be entertained while they learn. Number one, which goes to production value and the way you create content. 2, the length, short, in and out, quick. The bad part about TikTok is it makes money for TikTok, not for you. So for me, when we create like high quality video content for clients, we create a social media version, 20, 30 seconds long, that goes out and into the TikToks, the YouTubes, the LinkedIns, and the Facebooks, and the Instagrams of the world as awareness. But their goal is not for you to learn there; it's to convert and pull you into the website where now the noise is eliminated, and now you can serve your own sponsors and you can engage with that member. But you can't ignore that they are huge audience draws, and you got to put some small snippets out there so that they find you and then engage with you. So, but that whole making content entertaining as well as educational, if you want to attract young people, that's what they expect. And that ups the production value. Well, how do you up the production value unless you have revenue, right? We just don't have the budgets to do it otherwise. I see a question from Mary here. Who on staff does initial outreach to sponsors? It's a great question, Mary, or in that I think it's there's a bit of a collaboration required in that if I'm in charge of editorial, I'm probably working with that person who in business development, whether that's someone who works on your staff or you're using a third-party sales team, either one, to look at my list of sponsors and go, these are the topics that my members are interested in that will fill out maybe some niche segments that we would publish if it met our educational standards. And that empowers the sales team to then look at each of those sponsors and have discussions with them to see if they can meet that criteria, as well as buy some of the more branding elements like banner ads and newsletter positions and so forth. And usually that can generate a really strong interest. We've seen, because they need content for their website. So they're already in the content marketing game. But if you can say, we can help you invest in a video or a series or attend a podcast, and you get to use it as seen on our association name on your website too, they look at it and go, wow, I can kill two birds with one stone, and I can reach the people I really need to reach. And so all of a sudden, you know, they don't wake up in the morning going, I should call my association, I need a new video for my website. But in reality, that's the opportunity. And so we see sponsors and some of our clients coming back year after year and doing 4, 6, 10 videos a year or articles or participating in special programs, you know, because they're building up their website content at the same time. Yeah, agreed. So Mary said, great, create a product offer pitch for business development to profile and work together with sponsors on custom solutions. Agreed. I don't know if there are any other questions. Did I miss a question?
Issues, and earlier you mentioned take out the friction. Why is that so important?
Well, think of the experience that a young, well, not just young people, all of us have on social media. Two things. One, they don't go to Facebook and go, I go to a different platform to post a video versus post to post. Right. Same thing with, you know, all of the other platforms. So, and what they're seeing is a continuous feed coming at them, as opposed to, you know, blasting content at them. And so if you think of a newsletter, we're kind of blasting content at them. And social media is taking a drip, 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 continuous drip approach. And, you know, we probably need both. But what you can get people to do is starting to self-subscribe to the drip. You know, if I'm on a given organization and I'm really interested in a particular topic, is it easy for me to subscribe so I don't have to wait for the newsletter? When you post something new, it shows up in my inbox, right? Those are the ways that we can kind of engage people further. And then, but more importantly, is when they come in seconds, very much like that search I did on American Rental, can I find what I'm looking for that I have time for without knowing the medium? I shouldn't have to know that you made a video and I have to leave your website to go to YouTube. I shouldn't know that I have to leave your website to go find your podcast. I shouldn't need to know that I can only find articles from advocacy under the advocacy, and yet the same topic is in some other library, like in my magazine articles. If I'm doing a topic, I want to find everything, video, audio, articles, webinars, that matches that topic, and then I will engage. When they start to see that you can do that for them, and it's not difficult to do with platforms that we help people with every day, is consolidate that. And by doing so, you're consolidating a huge revenue opportunity at the same time. But now I don't have to, if I miss it on the newsletter, will I find it? That's the biggest opportunity, is making it so people go, you know, I can go back to the website and every time it's the same format. If I miss it on the first, I can filter, and those channels are right there for me to continue to filter. And I just find something engaging every time. And more importantly, once I find it, at the very end of that, right? I'll bring something up on screen as an example. Move this out of the way. So here's a spotlight. Let's go to this particular video. This organization is the material handling industry. So there's their video. It's made, it's brought to you by a sponsor. So there's only one banner around it because it's exclusive. I get into the video, blah, blah, blah. This is 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Right? When I get to the end of this video, I'll just pause it there. It's giving me 2 calls to action. I can download the report, or I can watch the entire series, because maybe this is the first time I even saw this series. So let's just go to the download the report. Well, here's a gated opportunity. I can tell you for this organization, we've had almost 700 leads of people wanting to download. 700 corporate leads that they've received by people filling out the form after seeing a video to fill out and get this. Huge growth revenue opportunity. Right? So make it easy to find, consume, and act. Don't assume the poor member or guest knows what to do at the end of that article or video or webinar. Just put it right in front of their nose.
That's an interesting question here. She says that they're constantly looking for writers to take something complex and summarize it into, bite-sized content. Any suggestions on where she can find those solutions or help?
Well, I mean, without sounding shameless, that's what we do. But so we're a team of about 65 people. We've got writers, producers, editors, and of course on the website we've got our platform people as well. But we'd be happy to help you with that as well. We also, like with the American Rental Association, they have a really strong editorial team, but they were really strong in long form print. And what we've been training to do is think, hey, instead of doing those interviews on the phone, imagine if we do them through an iPhone remotely. And now we can film them. We can create an audio version. We can transcribe the audio into text. And on your very best content, we can release maybe a 15-minute podcast, a 4-minute video, and a transcription in digital or in print or both formats. And now you can go, hey, read, watch, or listen. And your sponsors on that can be on all of that content. And so, and what we're, you got to look at the medium and go, what makes sense? Podcasts lend itself to 15 minutes or longer. Videos don't, right? Articles to a certain level, you might want to take the shorter version, like the 4-minute version, and transcribe it and put it out. So you got to really create the structure, but you can often then say, well, look, I'm going to put a 30-second social media video that goes to a 4-minute video that goes to the full webinar, and let people go as far as they want to go. Right? Some people like the T's and I's dotted and crossed, and they want to see the details, but others are just happy that you gave them the 3-minute version. I learned what I needed to learn, and I can move on. And with multimedia being so easy today, that you can, we have this technology called virtual videographer. We can film anywhere in the world without travel through an iPhone in 4K. So we can do a shoot for like $495 and capture 3 or 4 interviews and produce a bunch of content and have it out the next day. Like it's just it's changed the game but when we started, we did articles first, and then we went to videos, and then we went to podcasts. So we started with this mindset that they're separate. No, they can all be shoot once and use many. But if you'd like to reach out at all for some, we'd be happy to look at helping. And there's some techniques that we can maybe help train some of your own internal staff on how to do that as well. How to storyboard and get to the point quicker.
Well, I know we're a little bit over time, but Dan, thank you very much. And Marcus, thank you. And great questions, everyone. And again, if you want to learn more about it, you have Dan's contact information. And again, we'll be sending out a recording and the presentation to everyone. And we appreciate your participation and we look for you at the next webinar. Thanks, everybody.